This is Goku-san DBZ and welcome back. This is just a special Mortal Kombat thing video. I thought just talk a few minutes about the mythology behind the Mortal Kombat franchise as a whole. So I chose in the background music from Mortal Kombat Church or Temple from MK3. I thought it was suitable music with the pipe organ and stuff for this little bit of discussion. So with that said, in the very beginning of course, Mortal Kombat 1, story-wise, there's not much other than, of course, the announcement of the tournament, which we learn a little bit more in Mortal Kombat 2, which is, of course, that basically the whole goal to the Mortal Kombat tournament is to have the decision, the verdict of what will happen between rounds and stuff, that you must win 10 tournaments. Now we learn, of course, a little bit more so in the sort of reimagining or reboot, if you will, of the Mortal Kombat franchise. That this was an institution or instituted the Mortal Kombat tournament to avoid too many too powerful, for instance, beings together, but also to prevent, like, basically unification all at once, the power of all the realms. This was instituted by, of course, the Elder Gods. And throughout the years, we don't really hear much about the Elder Gods through MK1 through MK3. It wouldn't be until Mortal Kombat 4 / Mortal Kombat Gold that we would really learn about these Elder Gods. There are far higher, more powerful beings. And they're the ones who really more or less started and created the Mortal Kombat tournament. And of course, that is how, in the end, Shao Kahn would conquer. Of course, he gained control of Outworld with the assistance of course, Prince Goro, in order to stop the original Emperor of Outworld, Onaga the Dragon King. Betray him, lead to his destruction, then of course he would take over the realm or Outworld. Then he would lead forces and end up having 10 straight victories, taking over, of course, the realm known as Edenia, which of course is the realm that obviously Jade, Kitana, and Sindel come from, that we learn about. And of course the father, which was a god of sorts, Jarek. And though, of course, in the reboot MK11, they change up the story of Sindel as well, end up making her more evil, manipulative, so they really sort of retconned her in MK3, or, sorry, MK11, from what she was originally. Of course, Sindel was introduced in MK3 with the invasion of Earthrealm, which of course we see a bit of a retcon also on that stuff in, of course, Mortal Kombat 9. As well as, but I think the key thing is really MK4 was the first to really add more mythology aspects and more interesting stuff to the mythos of the Mortal Kombat storyline. Of course, as mentioned, we know about the Elder Gods really were introduced in this, though previously we knew of sorcerers like Shang Tsung, and of course Emperor of Outworld, Shao Kahn, and of course in Mythology Sub-Zero we would be introduced to characters like Quan Chi, and we would also be introduced to Shinnok, which of course we learn more about Shinnok in MK4, that basically he was a fallen Elder God. Now in those aspects, I guess you could say really what they decided is they took sort of influence, I think, probably from somewhat the Bible, I guess you could say, for Shinnok, and tried to make Shinnok sort of like the Mortal Kombat equivalent to Lucifer, I guess. But it's interesting, they definitely added things from other mythologies and religions and changed them around to add to the growing mythos that is the Mortal Kombat, well, mythology, or mythos. Of course, we also gained and got to know other gods, not just Raiden. We got to learn about God of Wind, of course, Fujin, which also actually technically debuted in Mythology Sub-Zero. And then we would, of course, come to Deadly Alliance. Shang Tsung and Quan Chi would join forces. And so, in order to stop the Deadly Alliance, Raiden would have to give up his position as an Elder God and return as Guardian of course, Earthrealm. Mortal Kombat Deception really added a lot more to the mythos also, because we had the introduction of Unaga, the Dragon King. We already knew about previous stuff that was already introduced, like Shinnok and things, but we got to see more of the realms. Like, up until Deception, really, more or less, we only mainly knew about Earthrealm, occasionally mentions of Edenia, and of course, obviously, Outworld. And though there were references to the Netherrealm, to be fair, more so specifically in Mortal Kombat 4, actually, is where really they mention more of the Netherrealm, because that's where, for a long time, more or less, that Shinnok ruled. Then, of course, in Deception, we would be introduced to two newer realms that were really introduced in this game. The Realm of Order, which, of course, basically the main one in charge of those forces and stuff was, of course, Hotaru. And, of course, we had the Realm of Chaos, the polar opposite of the coin to the Realm of Order. And, of course, basically the main guy in the Realm of Chaos is, as I've mentioned before, I feel a very criminally underrated character, Havoc. Interesting character and individual, but we got to learn a lot more about these realms and Deception, learn about more lore with Unaga and everything. But in retcon and things, if you read the comics and things, you knew about, like, the Blood Gods, of course, everything, which involved Reiko and Havoc and others, as well as even Dagon appears in the MKX comic, which, of course, was part of Mortal Kombat Armageddon of game, obviously. And of course, Taven. But we learn more throughout the years of the mythologies, and we learned there's actually a one ultimate being above all others. That in the very beginning of Mortal Kombat universe, there was actually, much like Greek mythology, interestingly, there were the Titans. And they would basically give birth to the universe. We would see the creation. The Titans would end up creating, of course, the Elder Gods. And also the One Being, which some, of course, believe, of course, obviously, the ultimate goal of Onaga, the Dragon King, was to become the One Being, the one above all others, and to be the ultimate ruler of the entire universe, or the Mortal Kombat multiverse. So that's one thing I like about the retcon stuff. They added even more to the mythos, that we got to learn more about this one being. Now, if you're curious, we've only had here and there, like, Elder Gods, more so in MK, though, 11, of course, really adding on to the story arc. Now, of course, we know two specific Elder Gods, obviously. One is, of course, Shinnok, the fallen Elder God, though they changed things up. Now, in the original mythos, of course, to release Onaga, that was required was the Kamidogu in Deception. Now, they changed that in the retcon in MKX, especially with the MKX comic books. Rather than the Kamidogu being what would release Onaga, it would be the daggers. The special, like, 4 special power, like, blood or god daggers, if you will. They were the key to releasing, of course, Onaga, the Dragon King. Just as, of course, the gold medallion, if you will, the amulet of Shinnok, was, of course, what led to the freedom of Shinnok. So we have two very mystical beings trapped through different means. With the amulet, it's Shinnok. With originally the Kamidogu, now the special, like, blood daggers, if you will, is Onaga. Now, I hope eventually, in maybe MK12 or something, we'll see the reintroduction of Unaga in this new timeline. I would love to see them bring back the Dragon King, because I think he's a fascinating, very interesting character, but I love Shinnok. As I said, of course, when it comes to Elder Gods, you have specifically two. We had briefly Rayan, which was Elder God, and then we, of course, had Shinnok, which has been off and on around for quite a long time, and, of course, his sister, Cetrion, in MK11, another one of the Elder Gods. Now, if you're wondering about Kronika, she is, of course, the wielder of time, but she's not an Elder God. If you actually read up on Kronika, she is actually a Titan. She's the Titan of time, the keeper of time and space. But she is that, a Titan, which makes me wonder in the future, could we see her bringing back Onaga, which of course ultimate goal is to be the one being? Could we see the return of the one being finally? And could we end up learning about more of the Titans of Mortal Kombat mythology universe? That's the biggest thing, I think, key to the story overall of Mortal Kombat is, will we ever get to meet more of the Titans? Because more or less now the Elder Gods are dead. Cetrion is gone, Shinnok is gone, Kronika is gone, the first of the Titans now is gone, the Keeper of Time. So could we see more Titans appear besides the possibility of the Dragon King and the One Being? There's many great threats still out there for future Mortal Kombat games. They have still a lot of potential stories and stuff out there from the original timeline that they haven't yet used. The only time Onaga has been really referenced in the new timeline is only in the MKX comic books. And seriously, if you've never checked out, buy the 3 trade backs of the Mortal Kombat X comics. It's more than worth it. The storytelling is superb, really well executed. I can't recommend it enough. But this was just a little, my thoughts and opinions, and just talking a little bit about the Mortal Kombat mythology of the MK universe. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, leave a comment, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave a comment if you'd like me to give a discussion type video in the future on maybe another street, or maybe another, like, reasonably rich fighting game universe, other than, of course, Mortal Kombat. I mean, Street Fighter has quite a bit of rich history. Soul Calibur has set up a lot of stuff. Tekken is not quite as complex, but there's definitely a lot of questions in the Tekken universe. Especially KOF, though I don't know too much about the story. Mortal Kombat, in my opinion, is the best storytelling, I think, of any of the fighting game franchises. In story aspect, anyways. I think it's by far the most rich and intriguing. But with that said, hope you enjoyed this, like, a little discussion type video. And what are your thoughts? Also leave a comment. What's your thoughts? Could we see the reintroduction of Onaga the Dragon King? Could we see, possibly in the future, them bring in new threats like other Titans that were, of course, with Kronika? Could we see, possibly, the introduction, finally, in physical manifestation or something, of the One Being? I'm curious what other people's opinions are. To my knowledge, the only YouTuber that I know of that's actually ever discussed the whole mythology and backstory of Mortal Kombat is History Behind the Warriors. The only YouTuber I know of that's really talked about this discussion before. And he's made some pretty solid points in my opinion as well. Which is why I enjoy his YouTube channel. I like that there's somebody other than myself that thinks this whole story and background of the Mortal Kombat universe is just really fascinating, and there's so much potential for future games. But with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.